What's up, tribe? If you're new here, my name's Jacob. I'm out here doing another lake walk with the dog. So the topic I want to discuss today is gratitude, and just how important gratitude is and how much it can impact our overall health and our mental and physical well-being. And I know this might sound like woo-woo to a lot of people, and it's really easy to discount this kind of stuff as pseudoscience and claim that there's no real scientific evidence that, having a certain mental state and being grateful about certain things can impact your health. But I beg to differ, and I'm going to share my personal experience to explain why I don't necessarily agree with that. So in case you're not familiar with my story, back in 2017, I was a pretty healthy guy, and then seemingly out of the blue, I had my health completely destroyed, and I lost 12 years of muscle that I'd gained after killing myself in the gym. I lost all that in 6 months. All that hard work and dedication down the drain. And it was one of those deals where it's really hard to get to that point, especially for someone like me who has a really hard time gaining weight and especially gaining muscle. So the amount of work and stuff I had to put in to get to that point, to have it all stripped away in 6 months, is really demoralizing. And it really put me in a depressed state. And it made me question whether or not I even wanted to continue living, because I was in such a bad state. I was I was basically on the brink of death. I was suffering every single day. Every day was nothing but torment. It was hell. And it got to the point where it really didn't seem like continuing on was worth it. And in situations like that, it's really hard to find things to be grateful for, because I was in and out of the medical industry. They basically failed me. They wanted to do an ablation on my heart. They wanted to install a pacemaker. Everything seemed very hopeless. Nobody was getting to the root of my problems. And I was just getting sicker and sicker. I was getting weaker and weaker. I was withering away to basically nothing. And I felt hopeless. From what I could see, there was really no upside, because everything just continued on a downward trend. And that furthered my depression. It furthered my anxiety. And again, it was just really hard to find things to be grateful for. But having come out of that by taking matters into my own hands and basically taking back control of my life and finding out what the root of my problems were and fixing them myself, was not only very empowering, but it also made me realize that no matter how bad our situation is, no matter what we're going through, there's always something to be grateful for. And looking back on that experience now, I can say that even in those darkest of times, I had a lot to be grateful for. Even though I was super sick at the time and every day was basically a living hell, I was still in my career. I was doing amazing things. I was still traveling the world. It was really tough to do that while I was sick, don't get me wrong, but I was still there. I still had my friends and family, and I still had a portion of my health that was at least keeping me alive, and there was still something inside of me that was keeping me from giving up. And that right there, that alone is worth celebrating, because at any moment in time I could have rolled over and just been like, you know what, I'm done with this. This world's not for me. It's time to go. It's time to just give in to all this stuff that's going on and just let nature take its course. But there was something inside of me that wouldn't let me do that. It kept me pushing forward. It kept me searching for answers. It kept me pushing back on my doctors that told me that you have to have these medical procedures in order for your issues to be resolved, which turns out was not the case. And thank goodness I didn't go through with those. But there was always something to be grateful for. And even the fact that I didn't go through with those procedures and I still suffered for months and months after those recommendations were given to me, that alone in itself is something to be grateful for. The fact that I had the guts to question the narrative and question what my doctor was telling me, because I knew deep down that the stuff he was telling me just simply didn't add up. That's something to be grateful for. And what I noticed about that experience looking back on it is that the more I started to give up and the more hopeless I felt, the worse my health became. And as I got more hopeful and I started to find gratitude in some of the smaller things, my health began to improve. And I've seen this in other people around me, people that are very negative, and it's very hard for them to find positivity in pretty much anything they do. They almost always seem to be the ones that are suffering the most, whether it be in terms of their health, their mental health, their physical appearance, and just their overall personality and their view on life. It's just a perpetual state of suffering. And the simple act of being around those people, it just tends to bring others down. And those are not the type of people you want to surround yourself with, because that type of negativity is very contagious. And just like negativity is contagious, positivity is contagious as well. And that also goes for gratitude, because the more grateful you are for things, the more that's going to shine through in your personality and the way you view the world. And people around you are going to catch on to that. When you exude positivity, people around you feel it. And then all of a sudden you become someone who lifts people up instead of bringing them down. You become someone who inspires others. You become someone who pushes others to be better. And you yourself become a shining beacon of light in the darkness. And that is one of the most amazing things that we have in this human experience, is that we can be that for someone else. We can look around us, and even though the situation seems very bleak and everything is just so dark and all hope seems to be lost, we can look past all that and we can see the light. And I think it's safe to say that the energy that we have, if it's positive or negative, is going to dictate or at least have some impact on our overall health. Because when our mental state suffers, if we suffer from anxiety or depression, then our health is going to suffer. It's going to follow suit. And we don't give our mental state enough credit on the impact that it can have on our health, but it can be very substantial. And the inverse is true about positivity, because when we're surrounded by positivity, when we find positivity in our lives and we're full of laughter and joy and we cherish and value each and every day, that's going to shine through in our overall health. And it's amazing that something as simple as our mental state can have that kind of impact on our overall health. But from my experience, that is a very, very real phenomenon. So regardless of your situation, the things that you're going through, the hardships you're dealing with, just remember that there's always something to be grateful for. And even if you can't find that in your own life, you can find that looking outward, because there's always going to be somebody out there that's rooting for you. And that right there, that alone, that is something to be grateful for. And the more things in life that you can find gratitude in, the better off you're going to be in terms of health. And with that said, I'm grateful for each and every one of you for tuning into this video, for commenting, for giving me your feedback to let me know what your thoughts are, and for being a part of this tribe full of amazing, like-minded people.